Thank you so much for that. Let's turn it over now to Mr. Morton Klein. Some thoughts as well.
Thank you. First of all, I have to immediately say that I have Tourette syndrome. It's a neurochemical disorder. Sometimes I make sounds I can't control, and I have facial tics sometimes. I have to say that so you won't think that I'm simply freaking out when you might hear some of these sounds. Although after hearing this, things are not too good. My tics are going to be much worse than I anticipated. There are several basic methods of whitewashing, the issues and problems surrounding present-day Islam. They're used in multiple contexts: TV, college campuses, political statements covered by the media. And we have to understand that the power of fictional accounts on TV, videos, novels, plays, opera is really large. Studies have shown when we see fiction in any context, we embed this into our brains and believe it's true. We remember the misinformation, but we forget where it comes from. Just one example, Quantico is a TV show which promotes inaccurate notions and ideas about Islam. Muslim characters in the show say things like, "I won't allow anyone to persecute me because of my faith. You assume that Muslim faith contradicts American loyalty. You're wrong. The question is not, do I believe in America? It's, does America believe in me?" An FBI agent says things like, "I know the Koran doesn't teach you to hate," and on and on and on. Extraordinary propaganda. Also, the West has been mentioned, especially leaders all over the world, including America, presents Islam as a religion of peace instead of promoting reform among Islam, like President Sisi of Egypt has publicly stated, a Muslim himself. George Bush, after 9/11, called Islam a religion of peace. President Obama says it repeatedly. In his speeches, he said, quote, "People find dignity and peace in their Muslim faith. Civilization owes a debt to Islam, giving us places of peaceful contemplation. Islam is not part of the problem in combating violent extremism," said Obama. "It's an important part of promoting peace." Another part of the whitewashing is this terrible scourge of Islamophobia, which, by the way, a phobia is where you do things or are afraid of things for no reason. We are concerned about Islam for rational reasons. It's not a phobia. There's no such thing as Hindu phobia, Buddhist phobia, Christian phobia, because we're not worried about things they do and they say. Islamophobia means marginalizing and demonizing critics of Islam by accusing people of irrational bigotry if they express fear or mention Islamic radical terror, criticize Islamists, or oppose Syrian Muslims coming to the U.S. We don't oppose Syrian Muslims coming to the U.S. because they're a different religion. We don't oppose Hindus coming here, Buddhists coming here, Christians coming here. We oppose them because of what they do and say, and because of the fact we can't vet them. They have hostile views about America, Jews, and Christians. And because ISIS is embedding themselves in these Syrian refugees coming to Europe and to America. That's why we oppose them coming to America. Let your members of Congress know this. It's a critical issue. President Obama has brought in 1 million Muslims since he's been in power, and Hillary is planning to bring in 1 million more, I'm told, by many of the people around her. And by the way, America is not even Islamophobic. Of all the hate crimes in America, 57% are against Jews. Only 16% are against Muslims. There really has been extraordinary restraint, and there's been really no negative aspects of the way Americans respond to Muslims. CARE has target lists of specific people by name to intimidate them as Islamophobes. Many of the people in this room are on those lists. I'm sad and ashamed to tell you I am not. I came here hoping maybe I could get on the list now. I don't know. CARE has sophisticated search optimization and multiple domain names, such as Islamophobia Today, Islamophobia Watch, Spencer Watch. I don't know who they're referring to, this guy Spencer. Loon Watch, that's the rest of us. And the mainstream media has adapted this. CNN host in response to people criticizing Islam has said things like, quote, "This harkens back to the worst forms of McCarthyism in the 50s. When Congressman Peter King, a chair of Homeland Security, said that we must have surveillance of the Muslim community, Senator Feinstein said on that show, right to him, "You're creating disdain and hatred," when he simply made a rational statement of how we need to protect ourselves. The Anti-Defamation League, ADL, has referred to this very conference on their website as an anti-Muslim hate conference, led by a bunch of Islamophobes. And here I am proud that they did mention that not only Frank Gaffney and Pam Geller are speaking, but they said Morton Klein is speaking. I'm so proud.
All right.
Other whitewash techniques is to minimize the truth of Muslim support for terrorism. John Brennan, the Obama's chief now security advisor for counterterrorism, I might tell you, when I Googled him a year ago, under religion for John Brennan, it said Islam. Yes, on the website. And I immediately photocopied it, and then a few weeks later I checked again. It now says Christian. I don't know what that means, but I'm telling you, that's what it said on the Google site for John Brennan, who says we shouldn't use terms like jihad, radical Islam. Homeland Security leaders has called terrorist attacks man-caused disasters, and our fight against terrorism overseas contingency options. They don't call it the war on Islamic terror. And never say the war on terror, as I said yesterday. Say Islamic terror. That's what it is. We should name it every time. Our Homeland Security's domestic extremism lexicon listed Christian and Jewish extremism. Can you believe it doesn't list Islamic extremism? Just shocking. For the last 2 decades, terrorists are called militants, not terrorists. Terrorist groups and radical imams, horrific anti-Jewish, anti-Christian, and genocidal statements are not in the media. When they talk about a terrorist attack, they'll say these people came from North Africa or Middle Eastern. When the salient fact about them is not that they come from North Africa or the Middle East, it's that they are born, raised, and schooled as Muslims. That's the salient fact. We also try to explain away things like the Iranian mullahs and their support for terrorism and committing terrorism. President Obama says this is due to mistrust because we've done terrible things to them. We helped overthrow a democratically elected Iranian government, and on and on and on. The movie Argo, George Clooney's movie, also talking about the Iranians who captured Americans there in Iran, explains that this is also because of things we did to Iran, explaining away repeatedly why these terrible people do these terrible things. In an interview this past year, President Obama blamed Iran's sponsorship of terrorist activity. He said it's because of the lack of inclusiveness. We're not including them in the world. Again, explaining away their horrific, evil actions. I see I'm running out of time, so I was going to talk about how we humanize terrorists. We have nice pictures of terrorists, talks about their families and friends. The terrorists. There was whitewashing of terrorists in the opera Death of Klinghoffer. I don't have time to get into it, but they made the terrorists look like they were men of ideals, men who are seeking peace. The Metropolitan Opera openly stated, quote, "We're looking for humanity in the terrorists." They said that openly when I just told you. We're humanizing terrorists, including the Metropolitan Opera. And this has had, intimidation of people criticizing Islam has had tremendous effects. Movies which used to have Muslims as terrorists no longer have Muslims as terrorists. They're white Americans, Russians, North Koreans, not Muslims anymore because of intimidation. I don't have time to get into it. Finally, I really want to get into this. This is very important. People use selective statistics to allege that only an infinitesimal minority of Muslims support or are sympathetic to violence and terror. The Anti-Defamation League, ADL, a Jewish organization, does this, stating that only a tiny minority of Muslims support terrorism or violence. What is the truth? The Arab Center for Research and Policy Studies, a November 2015 poll, found positive views of ISIS were held by 13% of Syrians, 19% of Jordanians, 20% of Saudis, 24% of Muslims in the Palestinian territory. That's not infinitesimal. At March 2015 poll, 27% of Syrian Muslims said ISIS is a legitimate resistance movement, not a terrorist movement. And that's true of 35% of Muslims in Syria. 15% of Iraqi Muslims say the same about ISIS, a legitimate resistance movement. 77% of Syrians support Hamas. A Pew poll said Hamas is viewed favorably by 48% of Muslims in Egypt and the Palestinian Authority, 43% of Jordanian Muslims, 62% of Lebanese Muslims, 13% of Pakistani Muslims, and 35% of the Palestinian territories view Al-Qaeda as a legitimate movement. Suicide bombings. Large percentages, from 37 to 74% of Muslims throughout the Muslim world, I don't have time to get into all the countries, believe that there are certainly times, in fact frequently, that suicide bombing is legitimate. And among a key group under 30 who say we justify suicide bombings, in the US 26% of Muslims under 30 say they do justify it, 35% in Britain, 42% in France, Germany 22%, Spain 29%. In other words, it's a substantial minority, sometimes a majority, who have strong feelings about terrorism. It's not infinitesimal. It's not infinitesimal. And when it gets to gay people, 99% have horrible feelings toward gays, and anti-Semitic and anti-Christian views. From 75 to 97% of Muslims in the Muslim-majority countries have negative feelings against Jews and against Christians. I will end by simply saying the Holy Bible gives important advice and requirements to we people. Deuteronomy says to take heed and carefully guard your lives. The Torah says the preservation of one's life is so important that the duty to rescue does not apply if the rescue would endanger a rescuer's life, such as bringing radical Muslims to America. Moses said, he prayed that we have to have strong borders, sealed like iron and copper, it's in the Bible, to enable one to live securely into healthy old age. These radical Muslims who want to harm us, conquer us, and place Sharia law on us, we must keep them away until there is, as Egypt Sisi says, a transformation, a reformation, and a religious revolution of Islam.
All right.
And all this does not make us right-wing. We are all in this room rational centrists. Truth is not a political position. Truth is not a political position. And that's what this conference is about. The truth of the growing danger of the scourge of radical Islamic terrorism to the West, including America. Just as we won the Civil War against slavery, just as we won World War I and World War II, just as we destroyed the Nazis, if we are unified and committed and take action, we will win this war against Islamic terrorism. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Very nice. All right.